Welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Here are your hosts, DJ Marcotte and John Soroyce. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast, the one and only working class podcast. We are the Blue Collar Ballers. I am with the excellence of articulation, John Soroyce, and myself, the Armchair Architect, DJ Marcotte. You can check us out, as usual, on our Facebook page at Armchair Fantasy Football, on Twitter at Armchair FF Pod. I'm on Twitter at Armchair Kingpin. John is on Twitter at John2977. And you can email us at armchairfb@gmail.com. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Podbean. And you can find our videos on YouTube. Just search Armchair Fantasy Football. Oh, and let's not forget, live on Twitch, John, as we speak, and Facebook Live, right here at Banded Brewing and their wonderful tap room here in Biddeford, Maine, right on Main Street next to Portland Pie. John, what do you think of this place? How are you feeling about this momentous occasion?
I'm loving it. The beer's good too.
Yeah, we got some good beer here. I've got a nice Mexican lager here. And John, what do you got? You don't know. It's a mystery beer.
It's a mystery. What's up?
Take a drink. Oh, that's real good. Don't forget the cheers. Cheers us right here. Don't spill any on the equipment, John. This is really high quality stuff here. So, Banded Brewing, John, is Biddeford, Maine's first brewery. Banded Brewing creates well-balanced beers in a broad variety of styles. Come visit the brewery in the historic Pepperell Mill here in Biddeford, or in the new Portland Tap Room opening this summer. Maybe we'll do a follow-up show there on the road, Johnny boy.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Sounds good. So, before we get into this, we want to, first of all, thank everybody. This is our first major live show at Banded Brewing in Biddeford. As you can hear, the chatter in the background. It's really fun. It's a great setup, a great facility. We're really happy to be here. But one of the more important things that we want to recognize, not just the folks here at Banded Brewing, Tony and his gang, but our listeners, especially our loyal listeners, John. And we got a really loyal listener that's going to become, I guess what I'll say, an honorary blue-collar baller. And he's going to become an honorary blue-collar baller on Fantasy Phone a Friend.
Oh, sweet.
Are you ready? I've got the number, the Chicago area code, John. Are you ready to call our friend John Sanders from Chicago?
Yeah, hopefully he answers.
Are you all queued up?
Yep, and I'm going to send it now.
All right. Hopefully he can hear us. We're gonna get. See, we do it really high tech stuff here. We call on the cell phone, right in front of the microphone.
You can put that up.
Really high tech stuff. Will he answer?
That's the question.
From the second city. The suspense is killing me.
I think he's screening this call.
Oh no, Johnny! Oh, we don't want him to hear that. We don't want him to hear that. We're gonna leave him a voicemail. He can call us back.
While he's doing that, so thank you for joining us on this live broadcast at Banded Brewing. We're gonna break down some news here in a little bit. We're also going.
John, we're broadcasting live here. John Sanders, call us back. Call us on that number, my man. Don't leave me hanging. We got some questions for you. But since John didn't answer the Fantasy Phone a Friend, we're not going to try it again like we normally do. We're gonna keep on rolling here. It's our first hiccup of our live show, John. Are we okay?
We're okay.
Are we still on pace here for a good solid show, a good solid outing, so to speak? So we are at Banded Brewing, John. And because we're at Banded Brewing, we wanted to have a little fun with the show and kind of tie their beers into what we're doing here and tie them into fantasy football players and our favorite fantasy football players. So it's a fun segment that we like to call Fantasy Brewing right here at Banded Brewing. And we're going to do player comps with beer, John. We're going to compare our favorite fantasy football players to some of the beers here at Banded Brewing and some of the best brews here at Banded Brewing at that. So let's get it started, Johnny boy. I'm going to start with the Session Ender Triple IPA. And let me tell you guys, if you're not familiar with beer, IPAs, they hit you. Double IPAs hit you double, and triple IPAs can knock you out if you're not careful. So my session ender triple IPA is Christian McCaffrey. Because much like the session ender IPA, Christian McCaffrey hits hard and leaves fast. Measuring in at an ABV of 10.5%, you're taking in double digits every time, John. Much like with Run CMC. You know you're getting hit with double digits with him, double-digit fantasy points. McCaffrey only had 1 week, John, week 2 against Tampa with single-digit PPR points. Oh, and one more thing. While this triple IPA from Banded Brewing is considered a session ender, McCaffrey's more like a season ender, wouldn't you say? Scoring 24.5, 37.5, and 32.3 points respectively in the fantasy playoffs. 1 or 2 matchups with Christian McCaffrey may be okay, John, but anything more than that may put you on your rear end, much like the session ender. Christian McCaffrey is the triple IPA of fantasy football. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree.
We got friend of the show, John Parvin, over here. Hi, John. Don't get in the shot. We can't hear him. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do that at my regular job. John is actually my boss in real life, so to speak, and he doesn't let me drink on the job there, but we're allowed to here at the Working Class Podcast. So, John, who's your guy, and what beer are you comparing them to?
So I'm going to go with my first one. It's Banded Brewing Smokey and the Bandit. And my comparison for him, you know, it's not too dark of an ale, but it hits you. But so does in this guy, Gardner Minshew's comparison.
Minshew.
Why? Because that old Smokey and the Bandit, old nostalgic 80s.
Oh, so you're not going with necessarily a football comparison, but a look comparison.
Look comparison.
So
he comes in all
he's
swag.
the Burt Reynolds of the NFL. Okay. All right, interesting take on that. All right, so one of my favorite beers here at Banded Brewing, John, and my mother was kind enough to buy me a 4-pack of it, are the Charms and Hexes. And when I think Charms and Hexes, I think boom or bust, right? Charms and Hexes is a fruited sour ale with various rotating fruits for each batch. As a matter of fact, John, batch 9 contains blood orange and blackberry. It's a beer that provides a lot of sweetness, but has a sour side as well. Banded Brewing provides, pardon me, let's not forget, there's a sour ale side as well. I stumbled a little bit there,
that's all good.
John, I apologize. There's a lot of chatter going on in the background. Kyler Murray, John, provides plenty of sweetness with 5 games of over 20 fantasy points. He also adds his share of tart with 3 games of 10 or less fantasy points. You remember that, John?
Yes.
It was ugly, wasn't pretty. That's a 25% boom percentage and a 31% bust percentage, John. Charms and Hexes indeed. The silver lining here, guys, is that although Charms and Hexes may alarm your senses at first, much like Murray in his rookie year, it also happens to be ultimately a wonderful, great-tasting beer that is alarmingly good and satisfying by the time you're finished with it. The same will be said, John, for Kyler Murray when it's all said and done, that much like Charms and Hexes will indeed delight, enchant, and refresh you and your palate, Kyler Murray's going to do the same thing for your box score when it's all said and done. Boom.
Okay, here's mine.
Follow that.
I have a bonus one I didn't tell DJ about, but we're going to do my second one.
You do the bonus one.
And this is the Cliffhanger. Cliffhanger here at Banded Brewing is a double dry hop for an exhilarating, hazy hop and action-packed adventure of pina colada vibe, stone, fruit, peat citrus blend with a smidge of sweet toffee.
Pina colada, is that French?
But what better than what player to compare this to this IPA?
Yep.
Is Russell Wilson. Why? Because he leaves you hanging.
Oh,
he's sweet when he scores all those points.
He does indeed do that.
But Russell Wilson will always start a game, and then boom, fourth quarter, you get it. He's a cliffhanger to me, just like the drink. It packs a nice fruity taste at the end when you're scoring 40 fantasy points.
So what you're saying is Russell Wilson gives you about 3/4 of nothing. So Russell Wilson's like a heart attack in fantasy football. He gives you three-quarters of nothing, and then he gives you the fourth quarter is about 400 fantasy points, and you're probably going against him, and he's probably causing you to lose because you think you got it all sealed up. You think you got the deal sealed, but at the end of the day, the fourth quarter's where it's at. So that's a fourth quarter beer is what you're telling me right there.
Yes, it is.
What's your other one? You had another one there.
So
and by the way, we're not doing music here today because it's a little bit too noisy.
My bonus one, and I compared this, not so much for the taste of the beer, but the person I'm going to compare the Luminaire. The Luminaire is a fusion of our love brewing hoppy punchy ales and snappy crisp lagers with tropical spicy bright.
That sounds
and
good.
crushable.
My mouth is watering right now.
And this is being compared to one of our draft picks coming up. He is being touted, if you are following the college drafts and all, college combines and all that. But
does he talk like this?
Yes, he does. I am comparing the Luminaire to La Visca Chanel.
La Visca Chanel. I wish we had the music right now.
Oh, I know.
That's really my
French.
favorite part of La Visca Chanel. He's a decent player and all, but I like to play the French music, to be honest with you. So La Visca Chanel. All right, Johnny boy, I know it's a little late for it. Normally we do it right away. But let's get at some news, man. What's the news for the day?
Let's start with news here. Emmanuel Sanders and the San Francisco 49ers have yet to discuss contract talks. My guess is...
Oh, whoa, we got some music, John. It's
Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I don't know why that happened.
It sounds like...
Just keep barreling through it.
I think Sanders and the 49ers are going to part ways. We will talk about that more, about the free agency part.
Yep.
Emmanuel Sanders turns 32 years old this year.
Yeah, so we'll talk about Sanders a little bit more later on. I kind of tied that into our expectations on where he's going, so I think the cat's out of the bag. It's not San Francisco in all likelihood.
Okay, next bit of news. Ian Rappaport reports Tua
Tagovailoa. You're welcome.
Had his 4-month scan on his dislocated hip, and everything is very good with no concerns.
You think he would look good in like a deep maroon color? Like maybe in Washington. I'm telling you, man, I called that, and I still think he's going there.
I think he's going to Miami. That's still my expectation.
All right, what's next on the list?
Next news, new franchise tag deadline has been extended by Monday, March 16th, 11:59 a.m. Eastern Time.
Roger Goodell did the best he could to sabotage our show topic today. He kept moving the franchise tag deadline back. So we do have a few guys that we're going to assume are being franchised, but we don't know for sure, so they might be left off the list today.
So we'll go in more in depth on some of these other news, though, too. But Dak Prescott was offered $33 million a year with $105 million guaranteed, and he still has not accepted the offer.
Dude, you need to just sign on the dotted line, man. Like it's a match made in heaven. I think they're going to they're going to franchise him if he doesn't sign. So I would probably say just sign the deal. I heard he's looking for like $160 million, which coincidentally I gave him on Madden. But I took the salary cap off first. But this isn't Madden.
He wants to be paid like a Super Bowl quarterback. You got to get there first.
Well, you got to win one of those first. But at the end of the day, I think he's got that potential. And, I'd love to see Dallas sign him, obviously. I think they're going to franchise tag him if he doesn't sign a deal, though. So he's ending up there one way or another.
Okay, next bit of news. And this has multiple things to go with it, but we'll just talk about it. So Brady has presumably been offered $25 million by the Patriots, but
not enough.
The Tampa Bay Times' Rick Stroud reports the Buccaneers are going all in for Tom Brady in free agency.
So I kind of wrote my show sheet before that news came out. But do you know what that is? You know what the Patriots just did? It's called due diligence, John. What they did was they said, okay, here's $25 million. We know you're not going to accept it, but at least it makes it look like we're trying a little bit. And they're not going to sign him. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'll tell you where I think I got them going shortly here, but it ain't going to be New England.
Shortly. So Lamar Miller has turned, it hasn't turned down, but he will test the free agency market. So that's another one.
AKA Houston doesn't want him.
Licorice Lamar.
That's how I translate that. Licorice Lamar will end up somewhere. It's not going to be in Houston, though. All right, what else you got? Keep him coming.
I'm almost done. Carlos Hyde has turned down an offer from the Texans, and he will also test free agency.
All right. He stinks. He's not even on our free agents list.
Okay, we move on.
All right.
Alvin Kamara said his leg was only 75% last season.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And now he is 100% healthy. Dude. Great buy low candidate.
I put this on Twitter. Alvin Kamara is going to be a steal, and he has upside. He has RB1 overall upside if he's 100% healthy. We've seen it before. He came pretty close to that the prior year. I'm loving Alvin Kamara. What I think is going to be a little bit of a discount this year, so that's awesome news right there.
And then the last bit of news, the Tennessee Titans are focusing on signing Ryan Tannehill to a long-term deal.
Okay, well, I'm going to cement that with my prediction later on, so that's great. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill, though. I'm just saying. let's not forget this is the same Ryan Tannehill that was a complete bust coming out of college, and it was a high draft pick. I think that the success of that team was more predicated on Derrick Henry than it was Ryan Tannehill, but we'll see. But you're on to something there in terms of his landing spot, John.
Okay.
How are we doing on time here?
We're doing great on time.
Oh, wonderful. Are we cranking through this a little bit too fast? John Sanders, you owe us one, bro. That was like a 5-minute segment at least right there.
Yeah.
You better call back. Don't.
He has not called back.
Don't leave me at the altar, bro. We'll get you on the next show, that's for sure. All right, so free agency predictions, John. We talked about it a little bit in the news there. There's a lot of big-name quarterback free agents this year. One of them being Tom Brady, and we'll discuss him as well. There were some big names for wide receivers. They're not going to make the cut necessarily, though, on our list. So obviously Austin Eckler is re-signed with LA. It also seems that the franchise tag is inevitable for A.J. Green, Hunter Henry, Dak Prescott. So once again, we want to thank Roger Goodell for constantly pushing back the franchise tag deadline. In any event, those players will not make our list today because it appears that the franchise tag is looming.
Unless for some reason we're getting false news, they should be franchise tagged. I mean, that's all I've heard about these players, other than Eckler signing the contract.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are all logical. I mean, it could be that it doesn't happen, but I think those guys are getting franchise tagged, and we're not going to waste time talking about guys that we think are going to end up ultimately on the same team, whether they want to or not. That's up for debate, but those are the guys that we think aren't going anywhere based on the franchise tag. So here's a guy that's not going to get franchise tag because he can't get franchise tag because it's in his contract language to not get franchise tag. So we're up here in Biddeford, Maine. We're in New England. This is Brady country. So we're going to start with Tom Brady.
And I'm rocking a Patriots jersey.
Patriot. Is that Sony Michelle?
No, that's me.
Oh, it's you. It's
Siwa.
Siwa, as my Siri calls you. John Siwa. But yeah, Tom Brady, we'll start with him. This has been tough for me, John. I mean, not because of Tom Brady and the Patriots, I could care less about that, but there are so many different stories and news tidbits coming out, and it's all very confusing to a degree, and I don't think anyone truly knows what's going to happen. What I do know is that Brady has a few legitimate suitors, right? He's got L.A.,
Tampa Bay.
He's got Tennessee. He's got Indy. He's got San Fran. He's got New England and Las Vegas. And now Tampa Bay has come out. And I mentioned that I kind of did my show notes before that news came out. But they're in the mix now. The big question is, what does Brady want more? Money or championships? I think he wants both. I think people are drawing this line in between that it's one or the other, and I think he wants both. And to me, he could conceivably win with any of those teams. Would you agree with that?
He can make any team better. The biggest thing for me, I think that Brady, he has the most Super Bowl championships, let's be honest. I don't think it's all about championships. I don't think it's about the money. His wife's a supermodel, doesn't really need the money. Let's be honest. I think Tom Brady, like I've said before, is playing to prove a point that he can play without Belichick. But is he going to pull the trigger and do it?
So I think the tea leaves read that he's leaving New England, especially if Belichick doesn't add any major pieces. And I think that's probably true. I think New England's going to be active in free agency, John, but I don't think you're going to see blockbuster moves in terms of big names that are there to draw Brady back in. And Brady doesn't have time to wait for that either. The other side of it is that the Patriots are going to take a cap hit either way. So once he hits free agency, and he will, they're going to take a cap hit if they keep him or if he goes. So the thing that they need to do to avoid that is to sign him now. And that's obviously not going to happen, right, John?
I don't think it does. I think he's going to be one of the last free agents to sign.
If he hits free agency, they're not going to take that cap hit and sign him, John. It makes no sense economically. It's an anti-Belichick move. The move has always been and always will be to move on from every aging legend that they've ever had. I think he's gone. Am I convinced of that? I don't know. But I think he's gone. So what does that leave, John? Vegas, Tennessee, L.A., Indy. And before we heard this Tampa news, I didn't think it was any of them. You know why, John? Because it's the quiet ones you have to worry about, right? Isn't that what they always say?
Correct.
And I'm only going on a hunch here. I was only going on a hunch, and the news kind of cemented this, but Tampa Bay has just been waiting out in the weeds the whole time. Nobody's ever talked about them up until now. They haven't revealed their master plan. We know what their backup plan is. If they can't find a better option, they'll just go with Winston. But that's not their master plan. I think their master plan, John, is Tom Brady. Tom Brady loves a good tight end. I don't think it's a coincidence that Arians has kept Howard around, O.J. Howard, who he hasn't been a big fan of. Brady likes a good tight end. Godwin and Evans may be the best wide receiver tandem in the league. And Tampa can get a solid O-line addition at the 14th overall spot in the draft, which is where they're at. Add to that what Arians did for Carson Palmer's value late in his career. Watch out for Tampa, because I think Brady's headed there. That's my prediction, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And that was bold. Before this news came out today. So it was bold, but it's not so bold anymore, right?
So my pick, I bounced back and forth, thought about, Brady, does Brady need the money? Does Brady need it for credibility for himself?
My mother's talking to my boss. I don't feel comfortable about this. This is not good.
So after bouncing back and forth, I don't think Brady goes anywhere. I think he knows that he holds all the cards in his hand. And I don't think it's about the money. He's talked about the money before, but his wife, like I said, is a supermodel. He has endorsements. He does not need the money. He does not need the rings. I don't even know if he needs the glory. I think he wants to stay a Patriot, die a Patriot. He wants to retire a Patriot. Why ruin that? But might as well leverage yourself with your team to give you the most success. They have 4 comp picks. They may trade those to possibly move up in the draft and pick up a great receiver, like a Judy. We don't know this. Or they could sign a good free agent, trade these picks to possibly get Amari Cooper. We don't know this yet. But I think that the Patriots are going to give in to Brady. They are going to sign I'd say an okay tight end. I'd see possibly a Hayden Hurst go in there.
Hayden Hurst is better than okay, by the way. He's good.
He's a huge upgrade. I also see them possibly signing the Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham needs to retire with a bang, so why not have him as a second tight end?
Yeah. It's pretty warm in here, man. I'm like sweating it. So, that's machismo. That's the Kavorka coming out in me right now.
Mahomes coming out of him.
Yeah.
So I think Tom Brady will stay a Patriot. I think he's just using this as leverage.
All right, you mentioned Hayden Hurst, John. We're going to move on to, I guess, the only major tight end in free agency right now. Austin Hooper. We mentioned New England in terms of needs at tight end. Austin Hooper's a pretty good tight end, right? Last I checked.
He's been one of the best tight ends. Actually, if he didn't get hurt this year, he probably would have been number 1.
And I mentioned New England being active in free agency. It was reported that New England was looking at Hunter Henry, who will likely be unavailable. I don't think there is a team in the NFL, to me, in my mind, that has a bigger need at the tight end position than the New England Patriots, especially given what they had in Gronkowski. We got Will Damon here, friend of the show. You're my man right there. Enjoy the T-shirt. Disc golf. Or on your route. Have fun. All right, sounds good, bro. Will Damon, thanks for stopping by. We appreciate the guys and gals that came by and gave us some support and some love. And my mom's is one of them, and she's leaving too. So, are you boring them?
I haven't even said a word.
You haven't said a word. You're something else. So anyway, back to Austin Hooper. Given what they had in Gronkowski, John, New England ended up with, nothing after he left, right? A big pile of nothing. New England doesn't always target the tight end on the field, John. We've talked about this, but they do always target good ones. Atlanta is well aware, John, that Calvin Ridley's extension will be more important down the road than signing Hooper to an extension right now. Like Cinderella said, don't know what you got till it's gone. The Patriots know now, and they're not going to go through that again. This will probably be the biggest move New England makes in free agency. I think they're going after Austin Hooper, and that's going to be their big quote-unquote splash.
Interesting. I don't see them going after Hooper. I see them going cheaper at tight end. I have Austin Hooper visiting the good old Cheeseland.
Oh, God.
Good old Green Bay Packers.
So he's going to Green Bay. It's a good thing Will just left because he's a huge Packer fan. He's probably not going to hear me say this, but he's going to Green Bay to die then.
Yeah,
that's where tight ends go to die.
But also at the same time, he could be the number 2 receiver here.
He won't. Because it's Green
He
Bay.
could be the number 2
and
receiver.
Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to tight ends.
LaFleur. Remember, McCarthy
LaFleur.
didn't throw to tight ends. And I'm not saying Jimmy Graham was
So-
not a good fit.
What tight end did he throw to last year then, John? You can figure it out. Are we back, John?
Yeah, we're back.
All right, we're back. You guys all right? You guys figure that out? Counting is really hard. All right, let's get back to it.
So as I was...
Austin Hooper, John.
Austin Hooper will
Don't
go
make me stop the show again.
No, he will go to Green Bay. That's my thinking, and I think it's just he becomes the number wide receiver 2 there for him, even though he's the tight end. And for once, the tight end will actually be used. Because let's not forget that when LaFleur was
You're making
with the
me drink with these
when he
takes.
was with the Titans, he actually did use Jonnu Smith and Delaney Walker. So Delaney Walker went down. So
All right.
It can't happen.
I guess.
Okay.
All right. Oh, LaFleur. All right, moving on. Next guy up on the list. The next guy is Emmanuel Sanders, who we touched on before. Given that reports, John, are suggesting that Sanders and San Fran haven't even opened up negotiations, that would indicate that the Niners are content with their current group of wide receivers, a very talented group. I think you would agree. I still think where I want Sanders to go and where he will go are the very same place. The Washington Redskins, John, are in dire need to add a great veteran receiver, and that's exactly what Sanders is. I think he'd be very helpful for the development of Terry McLaurin as well. My prediction here is simply Washington, John, for Emmanuel Sanders. We discussed this before. I thought it was a good fit. That's where I wanted him to go, and I just straight up think that's where he's going.
Okay.
It just makes the most sense.
I think that though too, but at the same time, I don't think you'll land in Washington. Washington will be focused more on the defense. We're proving that half. They're not horrible on the offense, but their defensive side could actually improve. I have Emmanuel Sanders going to the Baltimore Ravens.
I could see that.
Hollywood Brown spent a good time or a good chunk
Brother.
being injured. What do you do, brother? And then at the same time, we also had Miles Boykin, who did not develop.
Boykin?
Boykin.
I think it's just Boykin. I don't think it's Boykin.
Boykin.
He's not boinking anyone.
But Emmanuel Sanders going to the Baltimore Ravens would give Lamar another weapon, not to mention he will give that veteran presence to help develop these young receivers, and I think he can actually have some good success here with Baltimore.
Cool. I like it. All right, moving on to Amari Cooper, who almost made the franchise tag list, but I think the assumption is, given the choice, the option, I should say, Amari Cooper would not get tagged over Dak Prescott. I do think he's staying in Dallas, though. All day long, I think that. Dallas wants Amari. He wants to be a Cowboy for life. He said that. It's documented. It appears that Dallas will be moving on from Byron Jones, and I think the reason for that, John, they're doing this to maintain the current offensive structure, which means retaining Amari. It means retaining Dak. I think they do both, which frankly is not just good for the Cowboys, but it's great for fantasy football too, because we know these guys have a baked-in value right there in Dallas.
Yeah, so at first...
You beat me on the beer here.
Sorry, I'm thirsty. I was bouncing back and forth with Amari Cooper. I had him possibly going to the Jets. Then I was like, no, then I'm probably going to re-sign Robbie. I don't know yet. I bounced back and forth, then I thought about it. I think Amari Cooper will stay in Dallas. He's been very adamant about staying in Dallas. He's happy in Dallas. And with Byron Jones leaving, who's going to command probably 14 to 18 million at corner, they're going to have the space. Actually, they have almost the most cap space out of all the teams. I think Amari will stay in Dallas. He'll be a long-term deal.
I think he might play against Byron Jones twice next year, because I think Byron Jones is going to Philly on a side note. But yeah.
I think Washington.
Well, that's a possibility, too. They got to replace
Either way,
Josh
play him
Norman.
twice.
No, you could probably replace Josh Norman, given how he played last year.
Josh Norman went to Buffalo.
He did. He did indeed. All right, next up on the list, guys. How you feeling? Doing good?
I'm doing great.
You still there with me?
Yeah.
All right. This place is great, man. Look at this. Look at the ambiance in Banded Brewing here in Biddeford. This is a lovely place. If you guys have not stopped by, you're missing out. You need to come by to Banded and check it out. This place is awesome. Anyway, not so awesome is Phillip Rivers. He's okay. Based on everything I've read, John, unless somebody blows him away, I think Indy is the most likely landing spot here. Washington and Tampa have been linked, but I don't think that's going to happen. Again, I think the secret plan for Tampa, and now it's coming out, is Tom Brady. And as far as Washington, I think they'd have to back up the Brinks truck to get Rivers. I think at this stage in his career, he wants to win. His best chance to do that is Indy. They seem committed to getting Rivers, and I think that's where the ink will hit the paper for Phillip Rivers. I think he's going to be a Colt in about a week here.
So, Phillip Rivers, this was an easy one. I have him also linked to the Colts. I don't have him going anywhere.
I don't think we've ever agreed this much.
Yeah, I think he goes to Indy. Indy's been adamant about him. At the same time...
Indy's been what now?
Adamant.
Okay, there you go.
I didn't say it.
All right. Well, you said adamant.
But no, Rivers going to Indianapolis makes the most sense, but it is free agency. Could switch at any moment, but I think Indy's going to play it safe, sign a veteran quarterback, not take their chance on a younger quarterback or possibly a quarterback who's had turnovers in the past, like Jameis Winston and stuff. But I think Rivers will go to Indy.
I'm with you on that, my man. All right, moving on to Kenyon Drake. Drake was glorious, John, in Arizona. They love him. He loves them. There's a mutual interest. We talked about mutual interest with Robbie Anderson, but there's kind of a scenario here, John, and actually we haven't talked about Robbie Anderson yet. My bad. There's a scenario here. You ever had, well, you probably haven't, but sometimes you get caught up in a situation where you end up with two girlfriends, or you got a side thing going on.
Why do you mean you say no with
a little side hustle? Well, I don't want to expose anybody here, but it's kind of like that, and you can't afford to lavish both of them with gifts, right, John? That's just not feasible. And that's the situation that Arizona has right now, John. They've got two girlfriends, and they can't afford the credit cards for both, and the dinners for both, and the jewelry for both, and all that other fancy stuff. The Cardinals are already paying David Johnson a ton of money, John. And guess what? If they trade Johnson, they lose a ton of money. If they cut Johnson, they lose a ton of money. I just don't see a scenario where a team pays two running backs a ton of money, John. It's just not good football science. It's not good football economics. I do see a team in Detroit, John, that has documented interest in adding a complimentary back to carry on Johnson, in documented interest in signing Drake himself. I predict that Drake heads to the D and becomes a Lion, whether we like it or not.
I know there's been talks about that. I think Kenyon Drake is going to stay put in Arizona. I know there's a huge contract with David Johnson that has to be eaten up. I know nobody's willing to take it, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to take the cap penalty. As long as the collective bargaining agreement goes through, the new one, it'll open up more cap space. They'll just take the hit. They love Drake way too much here. He was wonderful over there, dynamic, just a different player. I don't see Kenyon Drake leaving. I had him tagged to multiple teams, but then when I thought it over and over, I don't see him going anywhere. I see David Johnson getting cut in the end.
I just don't think that's feasible from a monetary standpoint, but it's a possibility. I guess it's a possibility. If I was running Arizona, I just wouldn't throw away money like that when I already have a back like David Johnson. But it does seem like they desperately want to move on from him. Speaking of moving on, we're going to move on to Derrick Henry. This is an easy one for me, John. Tennessee's not stupid. They know they're not a deep playoff team without Henry. And they probably know that they're not even a playoff team without Henry, right, John? Coach Vrabel, his staff, they finally unlocked the code to Derrick Henry's dominance. It's a marriage that just works, so why divorce here, John? It's just a simple equation. Derrick Henry plus Tennessee equals he stays a Titan.
I agree 100%. I don't think they get a long-term deal worked out, and the only thing that scares me about it, I think he's going to get tagged, but I think he's going to try to hold out unless they get a deal negotiated before the season. Yep,
it's a possibility. So Derrick Henry's a simple one for us guys. And one that's not so simple, and we kind of begrudgingly put him on the list because he's kind of in fantasy, or I guess I should say NFL purgatory right now, and that's Antonio Brown. I will say he's finally seemed to realize that he has to at least tone down the insanity, John. He's made some apologies. He's been quiet as of late. To me, I think Big Ben's time is coming to a close, and I believe he's open to a reunion. Brown has coincidentally been kissing up to Roethlisberger as of late. He won't cost a ton of money, especially given a potential suspension that could be looming. Much like Kareem Hunt, John, Brown has burned most of the bridges. that he's encountered. He doesn't have a ton of options. I think Ben would love to have another crack at a ring, and I think Brown returns to Pittsburgh, John. This would not only be good for his value, but it would be good for fantasy, and it would be good for, let's face it, Screwju Smith-Schuster to maybe reemerge as a legitimate fantasy football superstar. You know, we all thought he had the talent, but it just appeared that, and granted, he had terrible quarterback play, but he just struggled as a number one. Brown would elevate him as well. I think Brown goes to the Steelers.
I do not have him going to the Steelers. I think he burned his bridges in that locker room. I know he's been apologizing, but one person he's been talking to quite a lot is Mr. Brady. Mr. Brady's going to stay put in New England.
Says you.
Yes, and I think Antonio Brown is going to join him at a discount, but also be slapped with a 5-game suspension.
Okay.
I see him signing cheap. He wants the money.
Yep.
And at the same time knows it's his last chance, but I think we'll be slapped with either a 4 or 5 game suspension for Goodell for his conduct for the past year.
That's lovely stuff right there. I say Pittsburgh though. So we both think he's going to a former team because nobody else is willing to take the chance on him. They don't want that headache. At least these guys know what they're getting themselves into. Jordan Howard's next, John. I think it's L.A. I still think it's L.A. I want him to go to L.A. The Chargers will not. And do you remember, John, last year when Jordan Howard actually got traded from Chicago? And everybody's like, oh, my God, Tariq Cohen's going to be the bomb in fantasy. He's going to be the man. He's the lead back. They believe in him until they drafted David Montgomery. Similar situation here. Eckler has his role, but I'm going to repeat again, the Chargers will not use him in a lead back capacity. I look at the big banger Howard as the perfect foil to what Eckler brings to the table. He won't cost much either, John. While Howard would likely vulture touchdowns, he'd have value as a goal line back, and Eckler would still have value as a pass catcher. The Chargers know they need to replace Gordon, and Howard seems to be the perfect fit, like a big bruising glass slipper.
So
how poetic was that?
I think you're going to be shocked by where I think he goes.
You can't put everyone in New England, you
No,
know.
he's not going to New England. But this one will throw you off, I think.
Yeah.
Jordan Howard to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills.
Similar situation there.
Yeah, the Bills are not sold on Devin Singletary.
I don't think they're not sold on him. I think they don't think he can handle the punishment of an every down role.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Well,
and Howard's very similar to Gore in what he brings to the table, so that's not a bad point.
I believe Howard averages 4.6 yards per carry for his career. He actually has good numbers. People just frown upon him because he's had a few bad seasons in the past.
Yep.
But now he actually revived his career in Philly. And
it's fantasy Tom Martell. He's in the house.
I think he goes to the Bills, and I think he actually will compete. Will actually be the starter. He'll split carries with Singletary here.
Jordan Howard. We were going to try to get fantasy Tom in here. Maybe he'll swing back by. Tom Martell, one-time co-host of the Armchair Fantasy Football podcast. The fantasy Yoda, as I like to call him. He's been around forever. Play fantasy, you must. All right, moving on to Kareem Hunt, John, another head case. It's Cleveland, and he's probably lucky that they're even interested. Hunt makes poor decisions off the field, John. There's no question about it. In his most recent arrest, frankly, although he's not going to be charged for it, probably eliminated his chance at being a lead back again, at least for the foreseeable future. I just don't see a team willing to trust Hunt with that type of a role. It's a shame, but he's lucky to have the Browns. And I think, honestly, John, he'll still produce there as a solid RB3, in my opinion. I think it's the best place for him if he's not going to get a lead back role.
I believe, don't quote me on this, it might be off by a little bit, but I believe he averaged 12.6 points per game in PPR.
Yep.
But I see Kareem Hunt not going anywhere. He will stay with the Browns. They've talked about, re-signing them, and he has actually even expressed staying there. I think Kareem Hunt will stand still. I don't think it's going to be a long-term deal, though. I think it's a 1-year deal.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe a 2-year at most, but we both would agree that he ain't going nowhere. You know who's going somewhere?
Who?
It ain't to L.A. It's Melvin Gordon. Again, we talked about Austin Eckler. Given the contract to Eckler, I think it's safe to say that Gordon will not return to L.A., John. I still believe that Lamar Miller will be leaving Houston in free agency. It sounds like that's the case. And firmly believe that they see the running back position as a huge need, especially given their exit from the playoffs and how a lack of real running game damaged those playoff hopes. Melvin Gordon seems to me to be the best answer for this question in Houston. Gordon struggled after his holdout this year, but let's not forget how good and dynamic this guy is. He's also proven to be a great pass catcher. Houston wants a title, and I think Gordon's part of that plan.
Yeah, and that's where I have Melvin Gordon going
boy,
too.
we agreed on a lot today. That's dynamite.
Carlos Hyde will test free agency. He'll be gone. They're not expressing interest in re-signing, nor Lamar Miller.
Yep.
So you pick up a free agent running back like a Melvin Gordon who already knows the game, has proved himself the last couple of years, not this past year so much after the holdout, which hurt him, I think.
Yep.
But I think you roll the dice with Melvin Gordon and Duke Johnson as your change of pace
I
back.
think that'd be great, yeah. So you have your Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. Duke Johnson we love, by the way, but none of the NFL teams seem to think of him as a lead back, and apparently at this point he's just not. But yeah, I think that'd be a great tandem in the Houston backfield. Now we're going to get to Robbie Anderson. The Jets and Anderson have a mutual interest, John. New York wants to keep him, but I think they're unsure of what type of price he's going to fetch. Robbie loves him some Sam Darnold. He loves playing for the Jets for whatever reason. And sometimes, John, mutual interest is all that matters. I don't think New York will be required to back up the Brinks truck for Anderson. I think he's going to come at a much cheaper price. My prediction, he stays in New York with the Jets. Jets, John.
Same prediction.
Say that 10 times fast.
Till I had heard the news that...
Are we on the same page
Yeah,
here, too?
I feel like we are. But remember, this is where we think they will land, not where we want them to land. Before the news broke yesterday about Jets and Robbie Anderson in talks about trying to work a deal out, I actually had Robbie going to Green Bay, but after the news yesterday, I feel like he is going to stay with the Jets, and I think he's going to get paid, but he's not going to get as paid as much as people think he's going to. I say probably around $12 million a year. I know that this sounds high.
I feel like that's a lot, but
it's really not.
It's not. And the guy is uber talented for a guy with that type of talent. Obviously, be the number one wide receiver on the team. And he likes it there. So, if, like they say, John, if it ain't broke, do not fix it. So the rest of the guys, John, we're going to do a little lightning round action here, a much more abridged version. Are you okay with that? You ready for this?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, we're going to start with Jameis Winston, John. Where do you think Jameis Winston's going to go?
He's going to stay a Buck on a short deal.
Okay. So option B for the Bucs, basically.
Option B for the Bucs.
Yeah. The well will be too dry for them in free agency.
Chicago Bears.
Is that your second choice?
Well, no, you just said it. I thought you said option B if he doesn't go.
No. I mean option B for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've said that he's option B. They don't want him.
I think they're going to stick with him.
Okay. I think he's going to the LA Chargers. I think there's going to be a big void there. I don't buy into the Tyrod Taylor hype. I do think there's a real possibility that LA could end up with Tua, though, in which case I would probably say not happening, but I think Jameis Winston is going to end up in the LA Chargers. I just have a funny feeling about that. What about Ryan Tannehill?
Ryan Tannehill stays a Titan.
He's staying right in Tennessee. I agree with you on that one. Matt Breida. The burrito
This
himself.
one's going to shock you at first.
Matt Burrito.
What does Bruce Arians like to do? What type of back does he like?
Types that run forward, gain many yards, and get into the end zone.
But they can catch.
Yes, he does like pass catching.
Matt
backs.
Breida, the Buccaneers.
Yeah, the Bucs. I didn't have anybody going to the Bucs at the running back position. You might be right on that one. I have Matt Breida going to the Miami Dolphins, John. I think they're looking for a similar approach to what they did in New England. It seems like they're structuring their offense that way. Matt Breida's a great pass-catching back to pair with maybe DeAndre Swift.
The burrito with the Swift. A Swift burrito.
A Swift burrito. Lamar Miller.
Lamar Miller to the Detroit Lions.
I got him going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think Boston Scott's the guy. I actually think Miles Sanders more the pass-catching option, and Lamar Miller would be the more traditional running back.
I just think that the Lions make sense because they don't want to wear down Kerryon Johnson, but at the same time, Lamar Miller will provide that change of pace back. While I see like a 70-30 split, Kerryon getting most of the work, but Lamar Miller kind of spelling Kerryon Johnson here.
Gotcha. Brashad Perriman.
Eagles.
I told you New England's going to be really involved in the free agent market. I told you there weren't going to be a lot of big names, and this is going to be one of those names that aren't very big. New England needs help at the receiver position. Brashad Perriman showed that he's still got the stuff over there in Tampa down the stretch last year. I think New England would grab him nice and cheap. Teddy Bridgewater.
LA Chargers.
Again, New England Patriots are going to be involved in the offseason. I told you, in the free agent market, they're going to need a quarterback, in my opinion. And what better guy, a game manager like Teddy Bridgewater. Devin Funchess.
Houston Texans.
Okay, they're going to sign Robbie Anderson. They still need more wide receivers. New York Jets go after Devin Funchess, that big body that they don't have right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like that.
Eric Ebron.
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Other than the Green Bay Packers and the New England Patriots, the Pittsburgh Steelers are the biggest need at tight end. Vance McDonald's not the guy. I think Eric Ebron goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Jacksonville doesn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Minshew needs his Ebron.
Minshew will throw to himself at tight end. He's got a Minshew mustache.
Smoking the Banded.
All right, so that's pretty much going to do it for us, guys. Look right at the camera, John, and thank our loyal listeners.
Thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for listening to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Make no mistake about it, we are the working class podcast. We're working class guys with a working class take on fantasy football. We won a lot of championships, and we want to help you do the same thing. And frankly, we've had a great time here at Banded Brewing at 32 Main Street in Biddeford, Maine. This place is an amazing facility that brews an amazing product. We can't say enough good things about Tony and his team here. Thanks to Banded Brewing. Thanks to the folks that came out to meet and greet us and show support. And as always, thanks to the loyal listeners of the Working Class Podcast, the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. All you guys out there, spread the word. Help us grow. This is a big part of that in this event today, and we hope to do more. Did you have fun, John?
I had a lot of fun.
All right,
I just wish Sanders would have called us back.
I know. John Sanders, we're going to find you. He's big in muscular, though, so I don't want to mess with him too much. But John was working tonight. John Sanders, our friend of the show, so we'll catch up with him next time. I would have loved to have him on today, but and then our boy Tom, the Fantasy Yoda, split off somewhere. But anyway, thanks for supporting the show, guys. Until next time, we'll see you next week on our more traditional studio. Although I'm kind of liking the digs here, John. Maybe this is our new studio. What do you think? Very, very nice ambiance.
You mean drink a beer and do a podcast? I love it.
It's a very ambiance. Is that a French word? That's something that I would
ambiance liminaire.
anticipate maybe.
Oh, is that Le Visque Chanon?
Maybe La Visca Chanon would say something like that. Maybe not. Okay, that's why we didn't play the music here. Hopefully, Twitch and Facebook Live was a success. Very kind of weird background noise here, so hopefully that translated well and you guys could hear us. If not, we are going to do it again, and we're going to try to do it every show, frankly, at the Armchair Studios, at the Armchair headquarters. So, Armchair Army, keep supporting us, and we love ya. And we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Thank you for listening to the Armchair Fantasy Football Podcast. Thanks for supporting the show. Until next time.